Guess what? Sue, do you see it?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live, Battle Buddies Extreme live edition this evening. We are going to, guess what? We're going to put this at the level that even a Marine can understand how to build a resume. Because even though we've been doing this for a good year and a half-ish, we still get questions all the time of how do I get started? And that's the most difficult step in anything is that first one. So we've got our master Pedro, El Jefe Pedro here, the resume fella. We got Sue. She's the one that gave me these bloody knuckles with the ruler earlier. And Sarah's here to keep us in check. If you guys have seen this show before, you probably know all of us, at least virtually. And we may have a VA person in the background this evening, the one that is my enforcer on the page that keeps you guys in line. So OJ may make an appearance. Anyways, so what I wanted to start off and let you guys know is that there are some fantastic resume generators out there that will work for probably 80–90% of you guys, maybe more. Personally, I think that they're better, the online ones, than what some of the Microsoft Word type of stuff has to offer. You can build a LinkedIn profile and generate a resume off of there. That works pretty good too. But there's nothing like having a professional resume done if it's in your time and in your budget.
Thank you.
And that's where Mr. Pete comes in. If you're looking to bring your career to that next level, chances are you're going to have to work with Pete or a fella like Pete or a woman like Pete. That's my suggestion.
I can be a woman like Pete.
Yes. I didn't want to assume his gender. Wasn't being a microaggression person. None of that stuff. So the two that I would suggest that you take a look at, there's a free one out there. It's resume.com if you don't mind getting spam and flagging it as spam and putting it in your spam folder. That works pretty good. I would give it a 7 out of 10. The interface is pretty good. My personal preference is myperfectresume.com. It seems to be a little more friendly for me anyways. Everybody's got their preferences, but it is a pay service. And there's a little trick if you think it's $2 or $3 for a 10-day trial. And then after that, they'll start auto billing you. But if you call them up and tell them that you're a vet and you need some help, they'll actually give you a 1-year subscription for $25 if you talk to them nice. So
hence the challenge.
Yeah. So don't talk to them in a way that we would have to edit you on Facebook. If you're real nice, it's amazing what happens. Pete, you want to give a little perspective on resume generator versus trying to do a tap generated resume from what you see when you get these from your side of the house?
Well, anything that gets you incrementally closer to authenticity and meaningfulness is going to be a benefit. I would say that between the two, maybe it's a horse apiece. Still, some work has to be done. Don't fool yourself into thinking that because one of these generators put words on the page for you and made it in complete grammatically correct sentences that you're done. You need to go through it and own that summary statement. And is it saying enough about you? Is it selling you, or is it just kind of going, yeah, I'm this? So, regardless of taps or resume generator or my perfect resume or this, that, and the other, at some point you got to inject a little bit of yourself. And I recognize it's not always easy, but you have family, friends, trusted colleagues, things like that, people that can maybe help you take it to a higher level too. So, and then you also have battle buddies. Hello.
Yeah. In Sarah, I know that you've talked about this in the past. You do a lot of hiring in a warehouse when the season's right or whatever. What does a well-crafted resume do for you as a hiring manager versus some shit that's put on a piece of paper?
It definitely, right off the bat, kind of gives us your background and your skill set. What kind of things have you been exposed to already in your life and career? And are there any of those skills that can be transferred into a warehouse shipper, receiver, or something along those lines?
All right. So, Sue, I know you're our time enforcer here. Anything that you would like to add before we jump into this evening?
No, I'll add as we go if there's anything that I think is important that hasn't been touched on. So let's just rock and roll.
I violated my own rule. Your next duty as a battle buddy is to invite people. This is great, guys. We're actually seeing an uplift in invites to the page again. There's 22 million of us out there, and you have to know at least a handful of people that can use this help, or they're willing to help vets through this process. So invite the Karens, invite your fellow vets, get people here that are willing to collaborate with us. So I'm gonna do a screen share. I'm not gonna PowerPoint you to death, but I am. I want you to see, this will be kind of a working session compared to usual. So as you can see here, this is resume.com. This is free. It's real easy. Since we've got a warehouse person on here tonight, we're going to pretend like you're looking for an entry-level warehouse associate role. You can see that they've got some resumes built in here, some templates, and I'm just going to fill in my stuff automatically. If you guys saw my address there, if you want to send me a Christmas card, I'm cool with that. Just don't make them creepy. So I'm going to pretend like I want a warehouse manager. You can see I'm already to the point where if I hit generate a resume right now, it's going to be somewhat respectable at a minimum. So it's going to have a format that's friendly to the eye. You're going to see my contact info, which is critical. You need to have your phone number and your email address on there at a minimum. If you have a LinkedIn account, put that on there too, okay? This is your public billboard right here. This is your marketing material for you to get a job, get an income, get some time, some money, so you can take some time and go visit South Dakota, the Black Hills, right, Sarah? So I'm going to flip on over. South Dakota is fantastic.
On the email, quick.
Yes.
If you have an email address that's like ilikebigButts@gmail.com, find a more professional email for your resume. Even if all you ever use it for is your resume, you know, sallysmith@gmail.com, and that's just your professional email. We've seen some, you know, they're personalized, they're not bad, but we've had some weird ones come through. I can't remember off the top of my head, but with your email, if you have something inappropriate, suggestive, just really strange, please consider just starting a new email account just for professional reasons, something that is going to not raise eyebrows when you're putting it on an application.
I had two this summer. One was Big Booty Blessed something or another. And then the other one was Dirty Keebler something or another. And I was like, next. And I wouldn't care if that was Einstein applying for a, come on, why won't this disappear? There we go. Applying for a jet propulsion role. I mean, sorry, passing 30 Keebler. So getting into this resume builder here. So this is the My Perfect Resume. It's my preference. It could be just because I've been using it for probably 6-7 years now. So this auto filled in several things. And here's where what Pete was saying, that you have to be careful by just clicking on stuff, because you can see I've got a home phone and a cell phone. Pete, can you talk about real estate space on the resume?
Absolutely. Real estate is a premium. I mean, we're still in an era where people want things to be brief. If they're going to access the document, that means they got to stop what they're doing, call it up on their screen, do them a favor, get them to like you already by putting less information that gives them just what they need You don't even, that way, first of all, use the phone number that you're going to answer. So pretty much today, home phones are becoming obsolete. They're kind of passe. And then prefacing it with a C or an H or the word phone, : you don't even need that. I mean, everybody recognized 3 digits dash 3 digits dash 4 digits as a phone number.
Hey, so little perspective. So I had this conversation with a friend here this past week. What do you guys think about Hotmail and Yahoo.com email addresses?
They're
and AOL.
Oh my God.
AOL.
Hotmail.
Anymore,
Yeah,
does it?
they indicate that you've been on the internet for a long, long time, and hence you're probably older.
Like probably 48 or older.
Now, I'm a big advocate of not hiding your age on your resume, but when it comes to being tech savvy, a Gmail account is probably the best way to go.
Okay, thank you so much for verifying that, Pete. Okay, so you can see here, nice little gmail.com address. So my point here is that the reason why you just don't hit submit or print or whatever is there's going to be weird stuff in these resume generators like this that you may not catch it yourself, but your friends and family are going to be like, hey, dude, did you know that you got your phone number in there 17 times or something like that? And they can help you redline this stuff. So, when this basic resume that we've already generated at this point, you're going to be able to submit it and get a really bad job at this point. No problem. So if you're looking for, what's minimum wage now, $9.65 or something like that, you'd be competitive with my son with this resume, even though he's only got about 2 years of work experience. You're 20. This terrible resume in this format, you guys are going to be making the same amount of money at the end of the week. So where you need to go then is, Pete always says, we were talking earlier, he says, write your summary last, even though it needs to be the first part. Pete, you want to talk about the why on that?
Yeah, and I'm not going to take the focus off writing the summary. And even if you have something as a placeholder of a summary, fine. But you're going to know yourself. You're going to know your skills. You're going to know what you bring to the table just a little bit more after you've done the deep dive on your career and you've unpacked your accomplishments and things like that. So I always write the summary last, and that just comes from repetition, where I've found that, man, it just is really hard for me to get started on this resume when I try to do the summary first. That being said, let's just say for the purpose of this discussion that we've already done the other stuff, and now we're coming back to the summary. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Hey, Pete,
yeah.
I want an opinion, and I'm using Chuck's as an example because he's got, obviously it's the same phone number, but his home versus his cell phone. Mm-hmm. What is the opinion of dots versus dashes in a phone number?
As long as you're consistent, that's fine.
Okay.
It's not going to hurt anything. Again, we all recognize 3 digits dot 3 digits dot 4 is a phone number. And the dots instead of dashes is becoming more and more common. So you're fine. Good question, though.
Anything else, Sue? Any questions coming in yet?
So one of the things Jarrett posted for when you're creating your personal or your professional email address, recommended first dot middle initial dot last name at Gmail type. It makes it simple and it's still unique to you.
Yeah, guys, and don't put your birth year on there, -62 or whatever, or your high school football number or any of that stuff. I mean,
it's not needed.
Yeah, but the birthday thing, I mean, Gmail, it's pretty tough to get, I think, your first dot last name at this point, but you can probably get creative and just don't go vulgar on it at all. Anything else, Sue?
OJ wanted to throw out when you're describing yourself, at a very minimum, you must have your name and your email account, which you already mentioned.
Okay.
And then Jarrett also chimed in with the fact that this is referred to as your applicant brand.
As what?
Applicant brand.
Oh, sure. Yep, that's a good way to put it.
Yep. So there's a few funny things out here as well, but OJ did post the link to resume.com out on our webpage, so we are set with that.
So I want to make a point.
We're caught up.
Okay, so even though this is a heavy lifting tool and will do about 80% of the heavy lifting as far as putting in some content, it's still going to take a significant amount of work to get it to be a good resume after that. So, you know, this is a front end loaded piece here that you have to be willing and ready to put some effort into. So I'm going to do what Pete says to do first here. So on these resume generators, if you have a career that you want to go into, so what you don't want to do is put in infantry if you're going to be a warehouse associate, okay? If you were a cannon crew member, you wouldn't put in artillery if your next career is going to be a program manager. Point is that what you want to do with these generators is start off with what your intended career field is. So, as promised, we have warehouse associate. What's a typical entry-ish level role, Sarah? Worker, associate, employee?
The clerk was the most common. That's kind of
Clerk. Okay.
Yeah, clerk's kind of the generic one. Now they're going more into just a title like a warehouse shipper or a warehouse receiver, but your clerk is your basic kind of entry level guy or gal.
Okay, so heavy lifting in mind, what you can do is you can take your transferable skills in your previous roles, whether it's military or, you know, a 20, 30, 40, 5-year career since you separated, and take a look at what would be the most appropriate summary of yourself that is directed at the role that you're looking at. So I would think that something like resourceful warehouse clerk offering, I don't know, 5 years of experience in safely and accurately moving goods, focused in avoiding damaged goods. This seems like a pretty good, appropriate type of heavy lifting thing. Mm-hmm. So then you just click this, and we're going to go. If it's under 10, you have to write out 6. So, right, Pete?
Here's where I trade off grammatical correctness for marketing. Is I put numbers because they get noticed.
Okay. So I'm going to put my deadlift number in here. So 475 pounds in a warehouse. That's like moving I don't know, an excavator all by yourself, right?
Dangerous, man.
Right. That's not a 2-person lift. What's a typical forklift? A propane forklift or something like that, Sarah, in a warehouse?
Yeah, we have an electric one.
Electric forklift. Boom. Okay. So this is a part where my heavy lifting's done, and this is where the paid professional in the group takes over and starts to wordsmith his eloquent ways, how he would expand on these fine topics here. Now, Pete, how many sentences approximately? How do you break that down? What do you think should be added? What do you think might be a good idea to remove from this professional summary statement as a general warehouse clerk would go?
I would say a number of sentences, let's hold it out to between 4 and 5, okay? Because let me just say that this resume isn't about you, okay? It's about the person who has to read it. So the goal here is to build your brand and keep it brief so that the reader can get what you want them to know about you without having to hunt for it. It needs to kind of come out, pop up, and meet them in the face. The summary is like your opening statement in your business case. If you could look at this as a marketing piece, it's like the opening headline. Okay, you want to impress the person reading it and get them to say, "Oh, huh, I want to read more." So, but that's where a little bit of creative wordsmithing, numbers always work, and again, results speak for themselves. Results will get you noticed, and results will create more intrigue for the reader to want to read more about your story. You can hint at what you've done up in the summary and then go ahead and explain it down below in the body of your resume. Not a problem. Do that.
Hey, your video's froze. You might have to flip it off and on real quick.
Mine?
Yeah. You look like you should have a fish hook in your mouth right now.
Oh, God.
It's not
Do
terrible.
you have a question?
Wait, words.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
John wants to know, he says, I've read about professional networking documents. Are they a lot different from your resume? Do I need to make one from scratch, or do I pare down my resume to make one?
What do you think, Pete?
I'm sorry, repeat the question. I was video adjusting.
So he's talking about like when you go out and you're doing a 20-minute networking, would you have a different marketing document than your resume, or would you be doing that with a resume out and about?
No, because as we all know, when you're networking, you're not asking for a job. If out of that networking meeting they ask you for your resume because they know somebody who they want to pass it off to, then just give them your resume. Copy?
Hey, Pete, your video did work when you turned it back on earlier, a couple minutes ago. So, there we go. So here's my take on the resume. When it comes to the real estate aspect that Pete was talking about, to make the most out of every single inch of that resume that you can make, is think about it like it has to be impactful. And I like the movie industry. So back in the 90s, we used to have to go to Blockbuster to actually rent a video. And if that cover wasn't really good and effective, and there wasn't an impression on my mind as to, I remember seeing that preview 6 months ago, but I didn't go and watch the video or watch the movie or whatever. Now I'm going to rent it. So the thing that catches you is that trailer. So that 30 seconds, that 1 minute trailer, whatever it happened to be, should be the compelling stuff that's going to be the call for action and drive you to what, to go and see. If you're going to the theater and you bring your kid, you're $80 if he wants gumdrops and shit like that, right? I mean, if I'm going to part with almost $100, it better be compelling. So I better hear some really good punchlines. I better see some really cool gun shootouts, car chase, those types of things. That first summary part and the first section of your skills, and then you start to get into your most recent job title, that's all you've got to make an impression on someone right there.
Yeah, and you asked earlier what I could add in for words. I want to say what not to put. Don't put results oriented. Everybody puts results oriented, goal oriented. It's so passe. It's overused. I think even JobScan, if you were to job scan it, it would say, hey, maybe you don't want to use these overused words.
Yeah, no, those are flagged.
Mm-hmm.
Your video is frozen again. That frozen one isn't. It's a little more. It's a little better than the other one.
I'm shutting down all unnecessary systems.
We're at our 5-minute warning. Hey, Sue, we got another question?
We do. Jarrett wants to know, first of all, he says that we've done just a great job focusing on entry-level and blue-collar jobs, and this influences the length and content of the resume. He wants to know if we've done a series focused on senior NCO and officers looking for manager and supervisor roles.
That's been kind of the core of the first year plus of what we were doing. We kind of did a pivot, adjust and fire, whatever you want to call it, to be a little more accommodating to our audience here. So I did a lot of individual videos like that. We've done several in the past, but we think about 80-90% of our guys are going to be more in the trades on here. But I don't have a problem with us going back into that. I mean, Pete, that's kind of more your wheelhouse too, right?
Yeah, and that's where building your brand is a little more imperative, and numbers become a little more critical. When we're talking like entry level and you know, in that first tier supervisor stuff, a lot of more opportunities available for you. So the pizzazz of your resume isn't quite as crucial. But if you picture a pyramid, the more jobs, or the higher the salary, I should say, the fewer opportunities there are. There just aren't that many. You know that there's one manager for every 10 employees, let's say. So as you move up the ladder, it also gets tighter and more competitive. And that's when you really need to start competing more on your resume and treating it more like a marketing document as well as a resume.
Okay, so we got 2-3 minutes left. Any more questions before we wrap it up, Sue?
Nope, we are in the clear at the moment.
Okay, so Sarah, as the person who's getting these marketing docs, any things that we've missed that would catch your eye that you would like to see?
No, I think the only parting things I have on that with regards to the summary is feel free to use a template, but make sure you go back and reread it and personalize it and make it your own. If you leave it canned cheese, it jumps out right away that this is a copy paste. It's not genuine to you. So like Pete said, put numbers in it. You put something personal in it that stands out. I think one of the first videos I was on, we used an example of have that catchphrase, something that inspires a conversation, something that's true about you, something that's unique about what you're bringing into the job you're applying for. Because if you leave it just canned, you're a copy paste person. You're not going to be thinking outside the box. So definitely reread it, have somebody else read it, make sure it's not cheesy, and personalize it a little bit.
Nice. Okay. Sue, any final words?
Nope, I'm going to throw one more at you that just popped up into the window. Marty wants to know, what about someone who spent 12 years on active duty and then went to college? What is your advice in tailoring a resume to that?
Kind of a generic question because, you know, is it a
tough.
career change? Is it, I mean, you know, where are you going? I mean, there's a lot of variables to that. I mean, that's something that you could probably, you and I, or you and Pete could probably have a conversation about that.
I mean, yeah, you're kind of opening a can of worms when it comes to career change. Is that what we're the gist of?
That's kind of how I see the question. That's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah.
I mean, unless your active duty time is completely transferable into, you know, if you were in the medical field or IT or something like that. But, you know, if you were combat arms, it's kind of hard to find jobs where you're doing fire missions, you know.
I like to tell people that career change ought to be a really strategic exercise. You really need to think that through if you want to do it successfully and end up making more money.
He was a mechanic and's got a poli-sci degree. That's a pivot right there.
That's a huge pivot, yeah. So the thing is to start your networking and stay safe. And that is to say, if you have to be a mechanic for a little while longer, do that while you network your way into that job or that career field that you really want to do. Don't just jump in or find yourself without a job and use that as, well, I'll definitely be motivated to find something. I'll sink or swim, do or die. That's not going to work. You're going to end up dying because the competition is way too fierce for those desirable jobs. So jump back, make it make a little plan. You definitely got to make a plan here. It's a whole strategy, exercise in strategy, not just exercising your personal desire to get something that's more fulfilling. Take it easy. Do it right.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through my MBA program, I had a guy from West Virginia that worked in the coal mines, and it took him about a year to get into Boeing, but he did a corporate move and all of that other stuff. So it can be done. It's not something that's, it's not like all of a sudden they're going to have a parade for you when you finish up your degree and be like, hey, welcome to the party. You got your ticket now. Here's a, $200,000 a year job. It's just, I wish it was like that. Pete, you probably wish it was like that at times too, right?
I do, because I'd have a lot more fun with my clients, because I get way too many of them in this COVID environment. They're like, they're put out in the cold, and they're like, well, I don't know if I want to do that anymore anyway. And I'm like, well, dude, now is not the time. Appreciate that you want to change. It's a good idea. You don't want to have burnout, but let's think about this a little bit here. And so, it's really ought to be a strategic plan, not a tactical move. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So Marty, I hope that makes sense to you. Hope that answers your question. We'll probably get into some professional side of stuff, talking about pivots down the road, but it's probably a month or two out at this point. We got kind of a series, and Mr. Carson is coming on next week for you guys. So tune in there. We're not going to tell you what he's going to do. It's top secret. We're working on it behind the scenes. Anyone else have any last things they want to say?
Hey, and this really, this is kind of where we started for the whole thing. But when you're writing your resume and you get to those blocks where you're like, I just don't know what to put, start thinking about it. And I'm going to apologize upfront about the other branches, because I don't know what your annual reviews look like in the other branches. But for the Army, we have the OERs and NCOERs. Think about what you would put on there that when you make it tangible, quantifiable. Just like in a bullet statement, if you have to do it as a bullet like you would in a review, then turn around once you've got that bullet, then you can build it out into full sentences in civilian speak. But it at least gives you a place to start when you're transferring some of your military stuff over. Is just do it like you'd write an OER or an NCOER.
Those OERs are gold mine, man.
Here's one thing I can tell you is about a year and a half ago, I think it was, Sue did an internal review on me and gave me this little kudos thing or whatever. Remember that, Sue, at Accenture? You wrote up something, you sent it in for my annual review as a fellow teammate or something like that.
I did, yes.
And that's what she did, and it was great. And my boss was like, no, you're supposed to be an evil guy. People can't say nice things about you. So, I'm going to voluntold Sue. So, just it's Army Girl 81 or something like that at Gmail or AOL or something like that. She's on the page, friend request her. She accepts everybody's friend request. And she puts her home phone number out there. So she will walk you through how to do this stuff. No problem. Right, Sue?
You sure?
Okay. All right. Well, we're over time. So thanks for tuning in. We will continue the series in 2 weeks because Mr. Carson's going to be here next week. And tune in for that. And let's see. I don't see enough Battle Buddy invites. So don't be a Blue Falcon. Keep on bringing people. We got 22 million to go. It's not that many. And we're not about the numbers. We're about the quality of help that we give everybody. So bring the good people here so we can continue the integrity of this group. That's all we got for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope this was informative for you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Yeah.